In the last 2 weeks, a petition was made on change.org accusing Ubisoft of disrespecting the Japanese culture and petitioning to cancel Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, we know Assassin's Creed Shadows was an incredibly controversial reveal from a gameplay perspective, a story perspective, and a character perspective, with Yasuke being a black samurai as the lead character in this Japanese game. Now, I made a video about a month ago about the casting of sorts of Yasuke as this black samurai as one of our playable protagonists in Assassin's Creed Shadows. But since then we've had Ubisoft Forward, which gave us a much better look at how the game was going to play. We got some more perspective on Yasuke and Naoe as characters and their gameplay. And now I believe we're in a position where people are formulating their opinion a lot more strongly because we've got a more concrete idea of what the game's actually going to be. And in the case of some people, that is petitioning to get the game cancelled. And for the people who were already angry at the reveal of Yasuke as one of the main characters, they have absolutely doubled down on it. You could be saying that, look, the game has had its backlash, we're in a bit of a quiet period now where we're probably not going to get much news for maybe a month or so, it's a bit of a downtime. Surely things are going to calm down a bit. Well, 2 weeks ago, on June 19th, this petition was put out in Japan, and it has already collected over 69,000 signatures at the time of recording. When I got my notes for this yesterday, it was only on 65. The campaign is growing massively and gaining about 5,000 to 6,000 signatures every single day. This amount of people that are angry cannot be understated. But I want to look at this petition fairly. I don't sit on the side of being for or against this. That's not really my place to talk, because I am not Japanese. And look, my interest in the game is purely on a gameplay perspective, a story perspective, how they deal with the characters. So today, I just want to preface this now. Before we get into the details of this petition, I'm not sitting on any particular side. This is going to be a completely unbiased look at just what the arguments are and how it affects the game going forward. And then I'm going to leave it up to you to decide what you think should be done about the game. Okay, so let's get into this petition. I want to start out by giving the summary of what this petition is about. This is a direct quote from change.org. The game is based on the subject of a Japanese samurai and ignores the fact that the samurai are a higher class and should be gokemono, or servants of nobility. In fact, the first European to receive the title of samurai, William Adams, was a bannerman with 250 koku and served Tokugawa Ieyasu. Throughout the history, Ubisoft continues to misunderstand the nature and role of the samurai. This is a serious insult to Japanese culture and history that could lead to Asian racism. So the first thing to point out there is that there is no mention of Yasuke whatsoever. There is no mention of his race, colour, heritage, or anything like that. This is all focused on Ubisoft's historical inaccuracy of the role a samurai plays in culture. Now, although that is the main selling point of this petition, modern politics have found their way into the comments section. Even though this is clearly meant to be Japanese culture being respected, people are sort of looking at this petition and saying, oh, it's got a lot of signatures, I'm going to add my signature and I'm going to tell people why I want the game cancelled. So it sort of became a bit of an umbrella term, I think, for why they want the game cancelled. And here are a couple of, I've picked out 3 comments in particular that are some of the most recent ones from about a week ago that give a very varied response on why they're petitioning for this game to be cancelled. So the first one says, I was a fan of the Assassin's Creed series, but when it was announced, it was a political pushback about black people and LGBTQ+ people. Yasuke is depicted as a famous samurai who is bowed down to. He treats this as historical fact, trying to make black people into heroes and spread a false history of the world. This incorrect history of Yasuke is thought to be caused by Thomas Lockley's book, Nobunaga and Yasuke, the Black Samurai Who Survived Honnoji. This false history has already been spread overseas, and the Brazilian embassy in Japan even tweeted that Yasuke is seen as a hero. This is a falsification of history. We cannot afford to remain silent. Other than that, I couldn't feel any respect for Japan when I looked at the game's content and the manufacturer's support. I can't bear to see black samurai slaughtering Japanese people. Oof, I mean, that's quite a heavy statement. So this commenter is accusing Ubisoft of falsifying the history books and trying to rewrite over the story of this historical character. They're not denying that Yasuke existed and was a character that can be in this game. The thing that they are not happy about is the way that he's being presented, which is that black people cannot be heroes. I'm not being biased, that's what they said. And that portraying Yasuke as a heroic figure is spreading a falsification of history. And that the developers at Ubisoft appear to have put no effort into respecting the Japanese culture, and they can't feel any kind of respect when they see the gameplay that has been released. I'll let you form your own opinions on that one. And although they've mentioned the LGBTQ+ side of things at the beginning of the comment, we are going to circle back round to that later, specifically with this second comment, which I think sort of puts it into greater detail. So let's read that one out now. If it's fiction, it's acceptable. However, I absolutely cannot forgive the fact that they spread falsehoods such as accuracy to historical facts, and Yasuke was a great black samurai. If this is left as it is and is believed to be historical fact, the Japanese will be hiding the fact that black people were such great samurai, and the story will become Japanese people discriminate against black people. It's visible, in fact, this is already the case with overseas internet users. This is a falsification of Japanese history, an insult to Japanese people, and clear discrimination against Japanese people. Okay, so now I just want to talk about this. So, well, shit, they've got us there. It's not like Assassin's Creed was a work of fiction designed by a multicultural team of various faiths, beliefs, and gender orientations. This comment brought up a point that I've never actually thought about, and it's the idea that by making Yasuke out to be someone that he wasn't, they are going to make it look like Japan's culture has been hiding this character, as if they've been trying to diminish the impact of this character and that Japan hates black people. And that's an interesting point, because that could be the impression that some people get. Oh, there was this black samurai, how come we've never heard about him? How come Japan never talks about him? Is it almost like they don't like black people and they don't want to acknowledge this part of history? Which is totally incorrect, by the way, because they absolutely have acknowledged Yasuke as a character. It already mentions there are books written about him, he has an anime, so they're not shying away from those kind of facts. But, the idea that Ubisoft is somehow going to uncover this sinister plot to hide black people from history, I think that's giving Ubisoft far too much credit. This is the company that didn't think women would sell, so they didn't feature them on any of the box art, and when they did, they cover their faces. But when it comes to black people, they're on a mission to find the truth. It's ridiculous. And the third comment here, don't say it's historical fact, say it's fantasy. It's getting harder and harder to say, isn't it? They're probably trying to rewrite Japanese history. Are you trying to blame the slavery system practiced by white people on Japan? This incident made me hate both white people and black people. I'm sorry, this is what it feels like to be culturally appropriated. Racist Ubi will not be forgotten. This person, in the same sentence, said they hate black people, white people, and racists. Okay. I know I said at the beginning of this video that I was going to be unbiased, but you can't be unbiased when faced with stupid. As a British man, I was incredibly offended when Jack the Ripper was rewritten to be an assassin. How dare they? You get what I'm trying to say. I don't think a video game is going to have that kind of impact to change the history and culture and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think people take what's in a video game seriously to the point where they would tell it as gospel. Assassin's Creed could be an exception to that, because we have things like the Discovery Tour, and I will get into that in a second. Because another point that people have brought up in this petition is that I couldn't find any examples of it, but people have been saying that that there were architectural inaccuracies in the game as well. And this is something that Ubisoft have actually said they're going to change, and that's really good. Unfortunately, I think them saying that they're going to change anything has given people this sort of door to get in and try and change everything. Ubisoft have acknowledged that maybe the gameplay wasn't exactly refined, and some locations on the map or something might have been inaccurate. Like I say, I don't know specifically what examples they're talking about, but there were some issues with the architecture in the game that is getting changed. And I'm really glad that is getting changed, because we have things like the Discovery Tour, which is used in schools, which is a sort of educational friendly version of the video game where you can travel around and learn more about the culture, and you can explore different areas, and it will give you more sort of educational information, more than we see in the game. You know, there's no combat, there's no traversal and stuff. You're just sort of walking around and learning about these different historical worlds, which Ubisoft do put so much effort into recreating, and I'm glad that they're putting the effort in to make sure that the accuracies are correct. And I like to think personally that they would do the same for the characters, and they would put that much effort in. There are two sides of the coin for me here. It's either Ubisoft have put this Black Samurai at the forefront because it's a story that they believe needs to be told, and that it would be an interesting sort of, deviation from what we've seen in other video games, or to subvert expectations. People don't like when expectations are subverted. They probably wanted an Asian samurai in the game, and because we've had a black samurai who, even though he may have existed, some people are going to view that as trying to push an agenda. And I don't know, maybe there was a quota saying, look, we need to get representation in the game, but that's never happened in an Assassin's Creed game before, where they've needed to push representation. They tend to just do it naturally where and when it requires it. You didn't see anybody complaining about Henry Green being in Syndicate because there are a lot of Asians in the UK, and that's just something that's accepted. Nobody had any issues with that, but you see how we're sort of deviating from what the point of this petition was. This petition was made to comment on the role of the samurai, the way that Yasuke's character is being portrayed in the game, and suddenly it's become about political agendas and discrimination and trying to cover up Japanese culture, which is, I think, blown totally out of the water, and it's getting ridiculous. We need to wait, and I've been saying this nearly in every video on Shadows, we need to wait until the game comes out so we can actually see what they've done and what they haven't. We can't judge it from 20 minutes of gameplay and a cinematic trailer. When the game comes out, if there are talking points that are offensive or things that have been done that aren't historically accurate and are more offensive, then of course these things will be called out on. It's like when Netflix cast a black person as Cleopatra. That got the backlash that I think it rightfully deserved, because that was not accurate to the time. But on the other side of that, we have things like Bridgerton, which openly admits that it is fictional, and therefore will cast anybody, which is a fair counter-argument, and I think probably the way that Ubisoft should do this. And what I think a lot of people are forgetting is that the beginning of every single Assassin's Creed game says this is a work of fiction developed by a multicultural team. That means they're not trying to pass this off as real, they are saying this is fictional. The final comment that I said there said, don't say it's historical fact, say it's fantasy. And they sort of called them out saying, oh, Ubisoft aren't going to say it's a fantasy. I don't think Ubisoft have ever been shy about Assassin's Creed being a fantasy. If anything, they've lent into it even more as the games have gone on, trying to steer away from historical fact and use it as a guideline to tell a fictional story. And they are not shy in saying it's a fictional story. So that's very alarming for me, mainly because this petition is gaining a lot of signatures every single day. Now that we've gone over what this petition is, how is this petition going to affect Assassin's Creed Shadows? And people might not like the answer to this, but it's not much at all. In fact, I would say very little. Ubisoft may have made changes to the architecture, but I think that could just be in the process of finishing the game, and I can't see any changes being made. Some people want Yasuke to no longer be a samurai in the game. I can't see that happening because it's probably a very integral part of the story. I can't see Ubisoft making any changes now. They have the historians on hand that they trust to deliver an accurate enough game. And I mean, we know for a fact now that the 70,000 people who've signed this petition are not going to buy the game. So let's look at the financial side of things. Assassin's Creed typically sells between 10 to 15 million copies per game. Now this has fluctuated a lot over the years. We've had some that have underperformed, like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Rogue, and we've had some that have massively overperformed, like Odyssey and Valhalla. Valhalla in particular being the highest selling game in this franchise, at 19 million copies. Fortunately, even if this petition reaches its goal of 75,000 signatures, 75,000 as a percentage of 19 million, which potentially this game could earn, it's really not that much. And I think people need to set their expectations now that they are not going to cancel the game, they are not going to change anything, and they are certainly not going to lose any money on it. Because Assassin's Creed at this point is a machine of revenue. Valhalla earned over $1 billion in the 4 years that game's lifespan went on for. However, look, I do want to say, just because they're in the minority doesn't mean that there could be some good talking points here. There may be genuine arguments here that make sense, and I don't want to comment on them until the game comes out. And the best way I want to summarise the video is that if you don't want to support this game, then don't buy it. I mean, that really is the simple, be end all of everything, isn't it? If you don't support the game, if you don't buy it, if you don't buy into the story that Ubisoft are trying to tell, if you don't purchase it, then you've had your say and you've had your vote. You've voted with your wallet. You know what I mean? People are going to speak with their wallets. It doesn't matter if you sign a petition. If you don't buy it, that is the best way of getting a message across. Look at all these TV shows that get cancelled after the first or second season because people disagreed so heavily with what was in them. That is how you speak. Who knows if this petition is going to have any impact, but it is growing at a very scary rate. And even though it's a minor percentage in terms of how it's going to affect the player base of the game, in terms of just people, 5,000 a day is a lot. So with that said, I'm going to end the video here. If you want to see a video that's a bit more supportive and lighthearted, then I just recently made a video unboxing the new Magic the Gathering and Assassin's Creed crossover. I just recently unboxed the starter set. Very exciting stuff. I've also got some outfit videos on the way. Assassin's Creed Syndicates is going to be coming out very soon. I'm working on the script for that right now. And I've got a big video dropping later this week looking at all of the box art in Assassin's Creed. So there is more positive content to come. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe for more Assassin's Creed content, and I will see you in the next video.